Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to welcome everybody to Bet Tefilleth Moses Synagogue. If you're a guest or a regular or watching on our website, I'd like to welcome you. And if you see someone that you're not familiar with, it'd be nice after Kiddush to introduce yourself. We're here today for Parsha Vaetchanan, Hebrew for "and I pleaded." This Parsha, there's so much in it that when I started writing, I actually started before I even opened up the Torah to see where we were. I don't know exactly why I was doing that, but I needed, and I was studying about this particular Parsha, and going outside the Parsha and looking at what other rabbis had spoken about, I found something that I hope you'll enjoy. Today we're going to hear about Moses asking God to let him into the land of Israel and being turned down. Moses describing the exodus from Egypt and the giving of the Torah. Moses predicting that future generations of people will turn away from God. They'll worship idols. They'll be exiled from their land and scattered among the nations. They'll return. They'll seek God and obey His commandments. We'll hear a repetition of the 10 Commandments, or the 10 utterances, as we call them. We'll hear the verses of the Shema, which declare the fundamentals of the Jewish faith. We're reminded to love God, to study Torah, don tefillin, and inscribe the Shema on the doorposts of our homes. And of all that is brought to us in this Parsha, one of the most emphasized laws deals with idolatry. The entire book of Deuteronomy is full of warnings about idolatry, but it's this Parsha that these warnings are most obvious and most numerous. Historically, between the years 410 and 310 BCE, before the Common Era, ridding idolatry became a top priority among Jewish scholars. More than 3,000 years ago, idols were usually carved images made out of either stone or wood, as Abraham's father was doing. But in today's world, who worships idols? Almost no sane human being today that I know of has any interest in worshiping a graven image. Call me uninformed, but I've yet to see anyone sitting on their porch swing carving out a little wooden idol and putting it in their front yard and expecting a god to come into it. But today we're more apt to look at idolatry as actually worshiping more material things. Money, cars, houses, jewelry, material. Things that so easily can remove our time and or our desire to study Torah. But let's take another look at idol. The I that's in the word idol itself. Actually, we're taught that a person who becomes angry and loses control of himself is considered to be engaged in a type of idolatry. You know, the feeling that some people get sometimes. We've all seen children in the grocery store aisle throwing their little temper tantrum. But adults do the same thing. Let's take a look at what actually happens, the anatomy of a temper tantrum, just for a moment. Consider this non-uncommon scenario, and I'll use Mr. Gold, a common name. Comes home from working all day and finds his table's not set and the food's not ready. And he turns to his wife and asks, how come I can't have food prepared on time? And he starts getting this. His wife realizes that no excuse or is going to explain anything, so she just hurries up, gets the food on the table, and start eating. And the children start acting up, and he says, sit down, be quiet. Starts getting this internal thing going on. The children quiet down for a little bit, but we all know they're going to start it back up again. And this time Mr. Gold decides that enough is enough. And he shouts, "I want silence!" And his face takes on this deep crimson look. The next one who makes a noise is going to get it. He throws it in just for a little extra measure. Well, what happened? All the children did was act their age. And why did Mr. Gold lose control? The problem is that Mr. Gold considers his will to be the final word. So he can't handle it when his will isn't met. In other words, he considers himself a bit of a god. Mr. Gold doesn't stop to consider that perhaps Hashem willed that he wait a few minutes for his dinner to come to the table, or that Hashem ordained his children to be active and boisterous and show, make him happy, see what the fruit of his labor, so to speak. He wants quiet. He wants his meal on time. He was probably upset because somebody cut him off on the way home from work. He was ignored at the water cooler. He. Who is this he? Who is this God in Mr. Gold's mind? It's he himself. And although I know this is exaggerated, not all of us become upset over these kinds of things, but most of us have our own little pet peeves that vex us and cause us to lose control. We don't have any passion to serve little graven images anymore, but many of us still engage in idolatry. If I am so absolutely important that anyone who challenges my overblown image of myself and makes me lose control, then I am serving an idol, not Hashem.